Anyways, before we get into the conversation, I just want to say that in my community, the guy that is running for the mayor, he is the incumbent mayor now. He was very chill. Yesterday when we played tennis together, I was telling him, "Are you actually running?" He said, "Yes, Saturday is the day." I'm like, "What? You've not even told me that you are running." You know what I mean? His pictures are everywhere. It's like he is not having no political conversation with anybody, but he is running. You know what I mean? So
Interesting. Very interesting.
that was a big reflection for me because it drove me back home. I'm thinking of 2 days election. Politicians are not sleeping. They are busy going from one ward to the next ward, from one house to the next house. But this guy is just chilling, playing tennis, and the election is just 2 days. But anyways, welcome to Daper TV show. We are super happy to have you here. This will be your first time here, and obviously you've not met this gentleman before. So I have Adam, my partner, my friend, a co-founder, and we have our friend very close to the house, Solomon Bucci, and I would allow Solomon to give his resume to everyone. Sorry, you're breaking. Hello? I think
MTN.
she's breaking, yeah.
All
So,
right,
yeah, she's probably just having some internet issues. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm going to allow Solomon to do his own introduction. And that happened.
Yeah, because you want to hype me, and that hype is a lie. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, probably. I think a lot of times people have. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think people have very interesting things to say about. So I'm a very consistent troublemaker. Oh, I think I'm. Our position.
She says Solomon is very familiar. Solomon is that guy that she thinks it is.
Oh my gosh. Is she in the UK or is she in Australia?
She's in Australia.
Why?
Yeah,
Why does she have?
she's in the capital. She's in the capital of Australia. She's in a city called Canberra.
Wow. Is it that the Australian accent is quite similar to the British accent?
I'm not sure because I'm speaking like a British now, so I don't know if that is familiar.
Oh, please. Have you
Come
walked
on.
up?
I'm speaking. I mean, like, don't do that. Don't do that. Oh my God, Adam! I don't know when you visited London if you had this kind of you got off the plane, you're in London, and everything just changed. Like the accent that you are used to just switch, and you kind of just realize that, bruh, I'm in London. It's very funny. It's very funny.
do you want to introduce today's topic?
Yeah, sure. Because I was just waiting for her to come. So today's topic is just what is being pinned there. So while we are waiting for her to come, we just will delve into today's conversation. So today we are looking at empowering our community, a vision for a local change. Why we choose this conversation is purely because our guest is running for the local parliament as a councillor. So we sort of just thought we should kind of just, bring this topic and then let her tell us, why she chose to run, what the reasons are, and what kind of changes is she willing to make, and what's her manifesto. She must have seen some kind of loopholes before she decided to run. And she obviously being a lady, we thought we should bring our friend, which obviously is a human rights activist, and he always appreciates and preach for equity and equality, and a religious man, a family man, very, very stand-up guy, and I'm not referring to Adam, I'm referring to Solomon. So I thought it's just gonna be a good place to have you so that we can have this conversation and get it moving. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's your friend. He's a family man. I think he believes in equality too and equity when Adam, have you offended this guy? I don't
I know I'm doing well when my haters are on my case. The first one was Daniel. He looked at me, beautiful specimen, say you're ugly. I'm like, yes, I'm doing well. So for Praise to say that, I know I'm doing well, I'm doing the right thing. And Praise, to piggyback off of what you were talking about earlier, when you're telling us that story of that the guy who's running for office but very casual, you didn't even know he was campaigning. For me, that highlights the difference between Australian politics and Nigerian politics.
Yep.
Where in Nigeria, a politician moves differently. When you see a politician from a mile away, you're like, that's a politician. They carry themselves differently. And I would really want to hear from Chiaka what Australian politics is like, because there's not many black people who are in foreign countries making any form of difference or holding political positions that we know of.
Yep.
So one, it highlights how open-minded Australia is, where an immigrant can even run for office. Because in Nigeria, I don't think a South African or an Australian can hold any political office. So
You
there's
cannot even
many things
you
that
cannot even vote.
that's true. Like it's fascinating, anyways. So it would be good to hear from a woman who's black, who's an immigrant, what that experience is like, and then we'll know if we'll campaign for you to run for office. Let's have our guy there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it just goes to show you that Australia is very liberal, and Adam, was that from you?
Yes, it's me.
Like I said, it just goes to show you that Australia is very, very liberal, and it's moving to that direction of, look, man, regardless of where you're from, if you have what it takes and if you can be voted, why not? But in Nigeria, where you are from, it is not easy at all. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of if you have the right to be voted for, you know what I mean? If you still don't have what it takes for you to be voted for, you get it right? You cannot even think of joining politics, talk less of running for an office, regardless of whatever office. So you need to have a lot of factors that will be supporting you. That is when you'll be successful. But in Australia, like, if you have what it takes, you know how to hold debate, you know how to convince people. That's it. That's it. You don't know, unless you want to probably be contesting for maybe premier, where you have to be flying to different regions to talk to people. If you are running for like a local mayor, you probably don't even need to spend anything. Maybe you just have to spend a few hundreds just to get maybe water for voters, and most of them don't even care. They will just go to. That's just how I see it. It just shows you that, look, you know, civilization is just really, really getting here.
I was going to say, you give up the qualities of a politician. Like, you would make a very good politician. If someone says that to you, would you consider that a
Yeah,
compliment?
100%. I know I've got the tendencies, I've got the willpower, I've got the potentials, to be a leader, you know, and it is up to you now to want to put me in whatever box or whatever category, because I'm a leader. I lead a team, at work and friends group. You know me. I put my hands up every time to want to do something, and I like to do something and maybe not do it well, and then I get corrections, and then when I'm doing it the next time, I'm doing it better based off on what I was told. You know what I mean? So that to me would be a good quality, and if I'm lucky enough to be elected, to represent a community in a parliament or to represent a country, I obviously gonna be like that, But in politics, it becomes tougher because there's a whole lot of consultation, there's a whole lot of things, there's a whole lot of this, that needs to be said, and you wouldn't obviously be as polite or be as truthful as you would be if you were a leader in a corporate organization than being a politician that represents a country or represents a people, because managing people is hard, and then you are managing people and then you are representing them. That's a tough job. So that's why you see a lot of dishonesty in politics. Yes. So it's different. You can be a leader, but you don't make a good politician. You are not a good political player. That's the difference.
Hmm. And that's when I was asking that question, right? And Solomon, I'm keen to hear from you on this. You know how when people look at you and they say, you'll be a politician, it's mostly because they see the negative traits that people relate with politicians, where they can bullshit their way out of anything,
Yeah,
or they are saying a lot of something without saying anything.
yeah,
It's almost always the negative qualities.
yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that it depends on the back in the, of course, that's the way we process politics with a very negative mindset. More like if you lie, dribble out of a position without really anything, if you can be diplomatic even to the detriment of the truth. So it's more like, oh, that guy is a politician, is a politician. I think it's a good and a bad thing, to be fair, because as much as politics is about ideals and structure and whatever it is you want to implement in the, I also think that it requires a level of I don't know how to put this. I don't want to say lie. I don't want to say deceit, but be able to handle in a very diplomatic way. And sometimes diplomacy is not seen as being very truthful by highly moral. You get. So yeah, that's why I think, because as a politician, let's say everything is going really crazy, like behind the like on whatever in your room or however you are planning, or with your team, things are really going crazy, and you will have to come and give a speech about the state of the country. You need to tell hope to people, even when there is really basis for hope, right? Do you see what I'm saying? Ability to sway people, not not negative way, but govern them to have hope, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Solomon, if we don't put
I
a
I think politics, again, it's a perception or an idea of what we see politics to be. But I think that politics should be about truth. And as much as it is hard to tell that truth, it is important to tell it because people would appreciate you. That is why you have good politicians and you have not so good politicians. The politicians, yes, you may go down in flames, but people remember you as that politician who told the truth. Diplomacy has its place in politics. And some people, as a solicitor, we will say diplomacy isn't a lie, it's managing it's managing a situation. So it's really important that as modern day politicians, we are leaning towards telling the truth at no matter the cost. Because what happens is when you tell the truth, You are governing people who can think for themselves, or you're, looking to represent people who can think for themselves. So it is important that they see you as somebody who, in Australia, we call it a very stand-up guy, There's a politician in the Liberal Party that's really liked. And this guy didn't do very great things. His name is Tony Abbott. But when you ask people who really love Tony Abbott, what do you like about Tony Abbott? Remember, he didn't do anything, exceptional. He's a very stand-up guy. So it's important that modern day that we carry on that it's really about telling the truth, no matter the cost, because the flow and consequence of that is that you do get that reputation of being a truth teller, right?
All right. Okay. Just before we get very, very deep in this, I just want to get your name right. Chiaka, right?
Chiaka.
Chiaka. All right, cool. Because Adam was almost calling you Chiamaka. I had to.
No. Different
So,
name.
Chiaka, before I'm not sure what you did there, because we were worried. You are very clear, and you are not breaking, and we appreciate it. Please don't stop whatever you are doing now, because we don't want to lose you again.
Yeah, I'm home now. That's why.
Oh yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So you are running for an election in Australia, and our friend here is in London. And in London, obviously, we have a lot of Africans, a lot of Nigerians that are in their parliament, but it's different to us in Australia. And I will say that you are the first that we know that is running, and I will want to call you a pathfinder. And with this, I would like to ask you, what did you see that made you to decide to put your hands up and want to make a difference? Obviously, I know that you are a barrister and a solicitor. Is that a plus, or would that be something that drove you to want to become, a councillor in your local community? Or did you see a loophole that needed to be fixed and nobody wanted to fix it, and you thought to yourself that I will be the one to do this? And coming from obviously African heritage, African background, did you see that to be a negative effect or a positive effect? So please, thank you.
Very loaded question. So 3 questions. Thank you very much for having me, and hello everyone. There are multiple questions there, but I'll just try as much as possible to simplify it. So first is, why am I running? Second is, what is my experience as an African running? And third is, what essentially is the reason, or even the first, it can be morphed into one. I always say to people that I didn't go out searching for politics. Politics found me. And I'll explain what I mean. I have been involved in the Canberra community for many, many years. I think the week I got to Canberra, I was asked to draft the first constitution for our organization. So I've been I've been a community advocate for a very long time. And that community advocate spirit has always been in me. Even in, I went to school in Nigeria. Even in Nigeria, I would always put my hand up to help. So I was at an event one day, and one of the members here approached me and said, "Have you ever thought about running?" And I said, "About politics?" I was like, "No, not really." And he's like, "You'd make a great politician, or a great representative, or a great MLA." It's called MLA here. And it's more like your, for want of a better term, the equivalent would be, your ministers of state and things like that. So, and then the journey started. Obviously you go through the internal process. I joined a political party. As an African, I had no idea, even as a solicitor, what it meant to join a political party. I had no idea that I could even join a political party. So it was really interesting to go through that process. I joined the political party, and the rest is history. Obviously, we go through peer selection, and it's an internal process where the party picks who gets to represent them. And then I was endorsed as a candidate, and we started campaigning. I think people would always say that for us Africans, that sometimes we're a minority peak. But the reality of the situation is that with us Africans or Nigerians, or however we present, there is no peak without merit. You have to be the best of the best in the pool to even be considered, let alone picked. So for us, it's not really about being a minority. It is that we have to be the best of the minority to be picked. So whenever you see an African there, it's not that, we accidentally fell in there. It is that you have absolutely proven yourself to be competent, to be picked, to run in an election. Obviously, it's a very, you have to be across what you're doing. You have to, know what you're doing. It does help to be a solicitor. I don't think it's a qualifier though. Most people say solicitors don't make very good reps because we're very technical and we don't really, consider things outside of what we believe it to be true. So we don't make the best representatives, but it's about ordinary people. And for me, I'm an ordinary person, who just wants to serve community. And that's really what it's about, serving your community and bringing all of that life experience, because most of our leaders here are people who go through the institutions. So they go from university, they go into advisory roles, from advisory roles, they then go into office. Very rarely would you see people who are actually, from community, from society, saying, I'm going to put my hand up for politics because of the way politics is seen here. People don't care about politics. They don't care about their leaders because they know ultimately, regardless of who is in power, education will be fixed, health will be fixed, road would be good. So for them, there's really no need to engage in politics that much because they know that whoever is in power would make sure that all of those services, social services, and essential services are provided. So they're not really interested. You kind of have to make them interested. But the problem that we're having now as a society is that because you're having people who don't have that life experience coming on into politics, they're not able to translate some of those decisions that are being made. It's not translated into real life. So when you're translating into real life, it doesn't really make sense, if you know what I mean. So it's not the impact that it's supposed to have on ordinary people. It doesn't have that impact. So it's important that people like me who've had that life experience come on board and say, okay, the way you're doing things is not the way you should be doing them. This is how you should be doing them because this is how it impacts our community or our society, as people who live in Canberra.
You are already speaking as a member, and I did not want to interrupt you, but at the same time, I wanted you to get to a conclusion, but you kept going. I see Solomon nodding his head. Yeah, Solomon is all about equity and good representation. And if you know Solomon with his tweet and all of that, he is obviously like I said, when I pitched Solomon the other day, I said to him, look, man, we've got a guest that is contesting, and she is a Christian and she's a lady, and this is what Solomon is about. And I'm sure, Solomon, you have a ton of questions or contributions and all of that, and I would like to give you the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think what Chiaka has said so far is very encouraging to hear, to be fair, because you see, I think that a lot when you have conversations with people, or I think our greatest issue as Nigerians in diaspora is that a lot of times policies are made without including us. And someone might ask me, why is it very important to include quote unquote foreigners? But I mean, foreigners actually contribute to the economy. So you know how much money that, for example, here in the UK, that people are paying for taxes, people are paying for visas, right? So that means that there has to be a kind of policy that favors foreigners. And it's always a good thing when I see Nigerians who are going into political representation, because it's very, because it's only the black man that can tell the black story. Only the black man that can relate, even with the challenges of black people, or finding a way to make it very equitable. And she said something, as minorities, we're already minorities. And what that means is that in some regard of political representation, we are not really there. So it takes a lot of, and racism actually, like, is a real thing where you have to prove yourself twice as hard as other people because you are a black person, and even much more again as a woman. There are a
Absolutely.
lot of biases. So if so I think that she's doing a very great stuff. I and I think it's very important for us, again, like I said, um even if we do agree in coexisting very harmoniously, but that doesn't take away our differences as races, as people. So I'm always very happy when I see black people who are out there and trying their best to put themselves on um on a political level. And it's more than just what it does for the Australian people or for the British people. It's also the perspective it gives to even Nigerians back in Nigeria, that politics can be done right, right? That in a system, in a well-structured system, politics can be done right. And a lot of times, young people, right? People who are in their late 20s, early 30s, 40s, and 50s, which is not really the reality we see back in Nigeria. If a 30-year-old is contesting in Nigeria, you're still a child. Who are you? Who born you? When you have people who are in their 80s, right, who've accumulated a lot of wealth, they've been mentored, they have godfathers, they have a lot of influence. But I think that the measure of good politics is how an ordinary person can have access to actually wanting to represent. And I think that's something that she's really said, as somebody, she didn't even know how to go about it. The fact that she didn't know how to go about it and she's now in it, shows that it's an easy system to be able to go into it. So I think it's a very good thing, and I honestly do wish her the best. But then I wanted to ask her a question from the first thing she said. There was this politician in Australia who did not really do much, honestly. Now, I understand that. Well, I think this is just me trying to be the devil's advocate, by the way. How do you say someone is a very good man, but in their governance, I'm seeing social, like, I'm not seeing, because you said he didn't really do a lot of stuff. I don't know I don't know who he is, by the way. But the reason I'm asking is just so that you are able to let us know, because I believe that if you are a good person, or, well, not me, I don't necessarily believe it's possible for you to be a good person and a bad politician, right? But you said that politics is about truth, that it's possible for you to be a very honest person and maybe you haven't really done much. Is that really what people want? Because at the end of the day, I feel like people,
So I, I
yeah,
think
yeah,
I think the point I was trying to make there is that so when you compare, his name's Tony Abbott, when you compare Tony Abbott to the likes of John Howard and things like that, it's about policies that actually significantly impacted people's life. So that's what I meant in terms of legacies and things. Tony is a very stand-up guy, and that's what it's some, and the reason for that is that you always know where you stand with him. Now, he may not be very liked, but he's liked by, sorry, he may not have done much, but he's liked by people because he's a stand-up person. So I was just trying to draw out the point that regardless of how you are, he did obviously his best. He had a very controversial policy, which was stopping the boat. And probably the one thing that I should have mentioned is my party is actually the Conservative Party in Australia. So it's and we're going to talk about that. I think it's really important that we talk about that as Africans, because education is key. When you know what favors you, or what acts in your interest, then you're in a position to make better decisions. So Tony was the Stop the Boat, and as you know, the Stop the Boat was the policy around stopping migrants and refugees from coming into Australia through sea, because obviously, like it happened in the US, they were dying and things like that. So he campaigned on that policy and he won. the elections. But in terms of, his impact, you can't compare it significantly to other, more prominent liberal political leaders like John Howard, who brought in GST and things like that. So that's what I mean, in that people like him because you knew where you stood with him. He wasn't, he didn't go left and right and forward and backward. He was very firm and straight. So people liked him for that. I said that we were going to talk about why my party is the Conservative Party and why, I'm in a Conservative Party as a Black person. I think as Africans, it's really important that we look at when we settle, right? We've gone past the visa process. We've gone past the struggles of settling down, and we look into the political space and look at the parties that give us the best possible chance of survival. Ultimately, as Nigerians and even potentially Africans, we are, and I will tell you why, we are naturally liberals. We're naturally liberals because we believe in hard work. We believe in the individual's right to determine for themselves how they should plot their lives. We naturally would have businesses and things like that. So we believe in the individual thriving against government helping you, not helping you being in your business so much, right? We believe, let me go and chart my own life. Provide the enabling environment for me to determine how I want to live my life in terms of the jobs I want to hold, if I want to run a business, and don't punish me for that. So naturally, we will gravitate towards the Liberal Party because that's, the party that gives us that opportunity or the best chance at being the best that we can be as the individual. There are other political parties, and I probably don't want to go into it. But for me, as a person, it was really important to me that I'm not going into a party that I was just a tick box exercise. Oh yeah, we've put a Black person in there, we've ticked the box. Oh yeah, we've there's a minority there, so we've ticked the box. I was going into a party. It was important for me that I go into a party that genuinely cared about my success, and then translating that genuinely cared about my community's success as well. Not just, oh, we need you for your votes because you have 5,000 people who can potentially vote, and then gaslighting us into, thinking that, oh, the biggest one is migration. Once you mention migration and, oh my God, these people don't want to let us in. I'm like, think about it for a second. The reason why we're here is because the system works, right? If the system didn't work, we will not be overseas. We'll be back in Nigeria. We need to make sure that we are supporting a process that protects the integrity of the system. If not, we will just all be like Nigeria and go back to, wherever country that we've, originated from. So I think it's important that we intellectually engage with the political process and find out which party offers us the best chance at success. Once we have settled, because obviously that's when we then go into politics and we start thinking about voting and things like that. It's really important that as Africans, we do that. If not, we'll just be voting people that are contrary to our interests. I don't want to talk politics too much, but the other party reminds me of the Nigerian government. They give you very little to keep you loyal to vote the next time, and then tell you, oh, but we gave you this social grants, so you should vote for us. And then next week, but not really, how do we develop you so that you can be independent of us?
All right, cool. Thank you so much. I just want to get Adam to obviously respond and and ask questions, because Adam is not really into politics like that, but Adam's own businesses, and he would obviously love a party that will offer small businesses grants, unlike everybody, unlike me, for example. So would you say your party would obviously support small businesses? I know Australian government are big on small businesses, and they give a lot of grants. Is that something that you will say your party would do? And that's just from me. And obviously, I know Adam will do a better justice to this question this trajectory that I'm trying to go on. Adam, please.
And like you said, right, which you very well said. Honestly, I'm sure there's a few other people like me. I genuinely don't care about politics because it's never worked in my favor. I've always seen it as something that has been structured not for me, but for the people and their personal interest, right? So, like you earlier mentioned, the Conservative Party, everybody, you went there because you feel like they have your interest at heart. And the people that will vote for you will believe that you have their interests. So everybody is voting and thinking selfishly, for lack of a better word, for what will favor them. And there's many ways I can go with it. Like when you were talking, so many ideas were coming, and I also want to play devil's advocate because that's how I genuinely think. I'm a skeptic. When I hear politicians, I think about salespeople. I'm a sales guy. So one of the qualities when people see you talking and you can sell things, whether it's true or not, they're like, you should go into sales. And that was the question I asked in the beginning, where when people say you have qualities of a politician, is it a positive thing? Because they're mostly focusing on the negative qualities. So now for you and for people listening, people like me that are still on the fence, how should we know that you are saying the truth? How should we know that you say what you mean? The same way you said Tony Abbott was a stand-up guy, right? Over time, people knew that this guy said what he meant and he meant what he said. But his actions would have convinced people. Now, not many people have that track record over time to convince people that they mean what they say. So, what can you say to convince people like me on the fence to believe you and your party?
Look, I do not care how people vote, and I say this all the time. I'm not here to, I say it all the time. What I always say to people is make sure your vote is informed. So I'm not saying vote for me because I'm going to solve all the problems of the world. I am saying that if you vote for me, I will try as much as possible, do the best I can, wake up every day because I have served community and I have a proven track record to do what I say I would do, right? It does not matter to me how people vote. It's not about, for me, it's not about selling anything. It's not about convincing people. It's about saying, I am here and I am ready to serve. And if you think that I do have the qualifications and the qualities of a leader, then elect me. It is important that for people like you sitting on the fence, that you're not just getting the information from politicians. Go on. I did my research, right? I did my research. What's most important to me and what party embodies that? Then you choose your leaders based on that. Okay, you own a small business. What party supports small businesses and how do they do it? The problem we have as Nigerians or as Africans is that we want to be fed the information. And so people will feed us what we want to hear. I always tell people, I'm here to introduce myself. I'm here to tell you what, I'm all about. But ultimately, the decision is yours based on the information that you gather yourself. You have to empower yourself to be able to choose your leader. Because we are all, like you said, people will sell you and feed you what you want to hear. But for me, it's not about convincing people to vote for me. It's about saying, this is what I'm about. This is what I'm going to do if elected. And if I'm elected and I don't do it, then call me out on it. That's it. And we have a process that makes that possible. People will keep you accountable to what you've said you would do.
Yeah.
So there is a process that would make sure that happens. And the next time around, you don't get voted in. So it's not about us feeding you the information. The politicians would tell you what you want to hear. For you, it's about going to find who best suits you, which political party. And if there isn't any, there are obviously independents, people who run as independents. You vote based on that. That's my response.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. Very perfect response, and I want to believe Adam is happy.
I'm happy.
For that.
I'm smiling.
I just want to go to Solomon on this one. Solomon, we we are all believers here, and there is a scripture in the Bible that says, when the righteous is on the throne, the people rejoice. And where we're from, at least a couple years, many years ago, not even now, because now people are woke, and we have so many crop of politicians coming out of church. Back in the days, we left politics, for people that are just talks. Nobody in church. I think there are churches that don't even go out to vote. They don't believe that they should vote, but they want things to work. They want policies to be made. And they complain about the cost of things and all of that, but they forget that people actually sums these policies and all of that up. So as a Christian, what will you say about Christians being in the forefront of politics? How will that benefit the church, and how will that benefit the Christian community?
That's a very good question, especially the last one that you said. How will that benefit the church? I think what people do not understand is that the institutional health of the church depends on the political climate. I'll give you an example. So, if you go to say some Arab nations, there are laws that they have that basically constricts people from express freedom of religion and faith, right? So it's very important, because a lot of times Christians they have this sense of just they really don't care about politics. Is stuff for people of the world. But you are living in the world. The prices of things, you buy things, right? So I think it's very, very important. And to Christians who are actually watching, or who would watch this later, it's very important to participate in politics, because when you look at how societies are formed and how nation states handle even faith, or the way we like the mockery of Christian faith, is based on the political agenda, what the leaders are saying, what they believe in, and this is not to say that we need a politician who is going to criminalize every other religion, right? That's extremism. However, we need leaders who will, restrict the reasonable expression of faith. There are places in England that, and this is not for me to bring conversation, but there are places in England that just because certain people believe they are pro-life people, and they go out to certain infrastructures where are being done, and they get right. So what I'm saying is that the political choice that you make might not dictate you praying in your house, but it definitely impacts the institutional organization, the organizational structure of the church. Can you even evangelize in public? Again, premise. So I'm not talking about blasting megaphones, in residential areas, right? I'm talking about reasonable, whatever it is that you need to do that permits that it's and we see it's high rising in the society we live in. A lot of Christians do not realize that Christianity is fast becoming attacked. And now, when you compare it to other religions, I'm not all names, right? You see that it seems like there is an agenda on Christianity. That's why when Christians say, "Oh, well, I don't believe in this," everyone is going to attack us. But when the other religion says, "I don't believe in this," everybody keeps shut. Nobody challenges them. And I still put it down to the kind of leaders, and even in terms of like politics, right? If you go to their countries, they have a lot of resources. You might be able to, criticize their form of government, but it works. It's working for them. So I think that it's very important and for us to be believers. And again, I'm not saying this for religious extremism, but it's possible for you not to be an extremist, or not for you not to be condescending to other people's choice of faith. But at the same time, you do not create systems that undermine the like, church. People should be able to, you know, get tracked, be able to religious, you know, respectable manner without having to lose their job, without having to feel that they are going to be cut off from the society. It's very important. If not, it will get to a day where Christian religion will be, right, where you're not able to say I'm Christian. And yeah, but yeah, I think that's what I have to say. But I have a question for Chiaka. How do you combine your Christian, you know, faith with politics, right? How do you do that? That's just going to be a question.
It's a very tough question because sorry, before I answer that, what you said about there's going to be a time where you can't really say you're Christian is actually happening in the state that I live in. So there's not going to be a time, it's already happening as we speak. So the thing I want to say about Christianity is that the reason why I think people are not gravitating to Christianity as they used to is because we're not living a good example. So we're not living a good example for people to say, okay, I really want to identify with this faith. As Christians, we're not doing a good job. We are the most hypocritical, we're the most judgmental, we're the most holier than thou, we're the most impractical, right? I have a saying, be the change you want to see. If you live, there's a way you live, and people will not mind whether you're a Christian or not. Everyone knows I'm Christian at my workplace, at, you know, wherever it is, everyone knows I'm Christian. But I'm also practical. I don't want to go down, you know, start preaching the Bible for you, but I am also practical that, you know, if somebody has endometriosis, I'm not going to say pray for healing. We are going to the hospital to see what the doctor says about you having endometriosis. So it's about being practical about, you know, certain things that we say and we do, and being reasonable, but also being respectful. You've got to respect that nobody's an arbiter of truth. Christianity is one religion, and that there are people, you are leading a diverse group of people. And choice is not mutually exclusive. So if people have chosen to be Christians, then you should also allow people to choose to be Muslims and choose to be whatever religion they identify, because it's not mutually exclusive, just to Christians. Choice is for everybody. So you choose what path you want to lead, what religion you want to follow. In terms of how you combine, you know, being a Christian and being a politician, I think sometimes your faith is tested. And I always, the way I look at it is, am I doing the best based on my conscience? If my conscience says this is right, then I do it. If it's not, then I back away from it. And there are instances where my conscience has said, Chaka, this is not a good thing to do. And then I back down. Now, it's not going to be easy every single time. It's not going to be black and white to make those decisions. But it's also being aware that, you know, to be conscious to the fact that, you know, you are a Christian in a political space, and that you have to be careful about certain things that you do, that you say, and the way you think. There's no hard and fast answer. It is a work in progress. You just have to keep thinking and be conscious of it, and making sure that you're making decisions based on, one, what people are telling you they want, two, that your conscience is happy, you know, that your conscience is in a settled state when you're making, and if it's not, you know, in our political party, for example, we have abstinence, right? So if your conscience is, if you don't know whether to vote yes or no, you abstain. You exempt yourself from voting. So that's also an option. So you must not vote yes to a policy or no. You have the option of saying, look, I'm not settled about this, so I'm going to, you know, back out and, you know, take, you know, a backseat on this one. It's an option as well. So it's about moderation. It's about moderation, and it's a work in progress. There's no answer to it. It's just, you've just got to do it as it comes, essentially.
No worries. Chaka.
Sorry, praise. Before you move on, right? I really love this topic, and I want to double click on what we're talking about. You see how religion is important to a lot of us as Nigerians. And Solomon, I love that question of, tying religion to politics. I feel like sometimes we try to panabit things that should be separate. We try to tie them together. Because if you look at religion the way most of us look at it, where it's just us, we've created a group for ourselves. So many people will vote based on religion. This person is a Christian, I will vote for that person. Now, that kind of mentality also gives way for racism, right? Because you believe that Christians know what you want. So me, if I'm a black person, I'll most likely vote a black person because I believe that person, based on our skin color, they know what is good for me. So a white person now looking at another white person and saying, I'll vote for this person because they are white, I don't think it should be seen as racism. It's just the human nature where you gravitate more towards people that sound like you or look like you. So honestly, I'm no advocate or I'm no politician, but I feel like religion and politics shouldn't go hand in hand. It's a more net negative than net positive.
Yeah.
That was just my thoughts
Yeah.
to add.
I think your religious belief puts you in a certain group of ideology, but ideology is not the only reason why you should be in politics. If it is, then you're in the wrong space, right? Because you should be representing people based on policy, based on what they're telling you they need and things like that. But the reason why sometimes you have people who come together to form political parties is because they have a certain ideology. But in the Liberal Party, for instance, people say we're a broad church, so we are interested in so many things. You can't really fit us into one box. There are people in there who are not Christians. There are people in there who are Christians. There are people in there, we identify in different ways. So that's the really good thing about that, in that, there are people, yes, we have generally the ideology that the individual should decide how they should live their lives and things like that, and the government should provide the enabling environment, but not be in their business so much. But we are so broad that it's really difficult to say we are X, Y. You have social conservatives in there, you have economic conservatives in there, you have Christian conservatives in there. So it's a broad group of people.
Sorry, can I drill in a bit more again, if you guys permit me, right? So you see how you said you make judgments based on your conscience, right? And people vote political leaders because they believe those people have discernment of judgment or discernment of sense or whatever it is, right? You assume that sometimes some people might not know what is good for them, just like children. So if a group of people tell you we want this, but you having discernment of judgment, you're like, this will not be good for these people. They might think it's good in the short term, but it's not going to be good long term. So then you now have to make a decision as a leader. So what would you measure your conscience against? Like how?
So nobody is an arbiter of truth, right?
Yeah.
Nobody knows it all. So if I'm saying that this is not good for people, what am I basing that on? My conscience is not enough, right? Because I'm not ruling myself or my family, right? So there has to be evidence-based to say, this is not good because of A, B, C, or X, Y, Z. Because I don't know it all. Ultimately, you're looking at, the decision is what the majority, you can never please everybody. You can never cater to everybody. That is what I want to say. There is nothing like a, perfection or mirage or whatever. You can never get to that point where everybody's satisfied. But you can get to the point where at least the majority of the people that you are representing feel like you are doing what is best for them. And you have to do it based on, you cannot just say my conscience says I shouldn't do it because it's not right, right? You have to back up your decision with, be it data, evidence, consultation. We have listened to X amount of people and this is what they're saying. But good leadership is about being able to moderate. And that is where you find the best of leaders. So not people who are on the extreme left or the extreme right. because nothing is done in either space. It's about people who are somewhere, able to listen to both sides of the argument and make informed decision. It's about informed decision. So you cannot just make decision willy-nilly. You're not ruling your family or yourself. It has to be based on something.
Sweet. Good point. I like how you made mention of Jesus and hospital, and I wanted to add therapy. A lot of Nigerians and most important, a lot of Africans, they don't actually do therapy. They don't do hospital. A lot of them just do Jesus. I like the fact that you said you are a Christian, but you are very logical. Being logical is there's a time for prayers and there's time for surgery and there's time to meet a counselor. There's time for therapy, which I am practical like that. A lot of us are practical like that. I just appreciate that point. I am going to vote on Saturday, and I have looked into policies of my small community and manifestos, and I know the guy that is running as a councillor, and I know the guy that was a councillor. So this guy won him, and he wants to run again. And I know the councillors that are sitting on their ballot. If this one wins, they're all going. And I've looked at them. Aside from policies, I've looked at them, and most of them I work with. Like your mannerism, your personality, all these kind of things will obviously reflect on your person. So manifesto might be different, but your personality as a person, I look into that as well. Especially if I know you. It's different if I don't know you. Because if you are happy, it shows. If you are stressing, it shows. If you are frustrated, it shows. And you cannot just hide your personality. I think to me, your personality, it's always going to be different. It's not tantamount. It's going to be different from the policies. Because the policies are always going to be sit there and be kicking. You can be a good legislator just because you are just ticking off all the policies of the party, but you might be like a big asshole just because your personality is not good. And I look at that as well. And also wanted to ask you, if the policies doesn't align with you, and then you go, nope, I'm not voting for anybody. I'm not voting for no party. I'm not voting for no independent party. Are you gonna get penalty for not voting in a local government election?
So when I say I don't, we have what you call a conscience vote in our party. That's based on policy. I'll give you an example of something that we took a conscience vote on voluntary assisted dying, right? So that's where people are assisted to die and things like that. The party gave a conscience vote on that. So if you don't believe, if you believe yes, if you don't know, and if you cannot decide because of whatever, then it's a conscience vote essentially. But in terms of voting is compulsory in Australia, and that's because we believe that for it to be representative democracy, then everybody must be putting their choice against the ballot paper. The problem with that is that it creates a situation where people don't know what choices they're making. So they're just going and just nilly-willy filling out whatever. So whether or not that's true representative democracy is a conversation for another day. But yes, you will be penalized if you do not vote because it's compulsory. It does carry a fine. But the one thing I want to say is that it goes on your record. So failure to vote. If you don't pay the fine, it goes on your record as failure to vote. And obviously, there are certain jobs that if you go to apply for and there's a failure to vote, it means that you haven't been, an upstanding citizen. You haven't, you haven't fulfilled your civic obligations and things like that. So it doesn't really tell well on you. So whilst, it's a $40 or $50 fine, the consequences of that is something that I think people should consider as well.
No worries.
Sorry. So that is very interesting. Wait, in Australia, you get penalized for not voting.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
That's why we are the best country in the world.
Okay.
Anyways, because we have been here for like an hour plus, and I'm very tired. I had a very long day. Adam, very long day, and we have little children, little kids. And I need to go to bed. Um, I just want us to kind of just have a closing remark based off on this topic, and this is not just going to be a goodbye. It's going to be see you later, because a lot of people actually like this. And we would want to wish Shaka a successful outing on Saturday. The next time you are coming here, you're going to come here as a member. Amen.
Amen.
And
So ours
we,
is not the councillor. We're not councillors. So I'm actually running for the state. So different.
oh, state.
And that's on the 19th. Yeah, 19th of
Ooh,
October.
that's a big deal.
Yeah. So
That's a
yeah,
big
yeah,
deal.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. So if elected, I would be one of the ministers here in the ACT if I get a portfolio. Yeah. So different. Councillors are different. Local government. We don't have local government.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, because
Mm.
it's Canberra. Yeah, true.
It's a
Canberra
territory. Yeah,
Canberra is a territory.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
see. I
So the
see.
state
I see.
government is everything. Local, yeah, yeah.
So if you win, we're friends now, right? We're friends. So if you win, we've got a friend in the. So Solomon can go. Solomon can go on Twitter and say, "My friend just won an election as a." Yeah, I mean, see, at the end of the day, like I keep saying to, like I keep saying to us, when I mean us, our friends, the guys that we're in the circle, if you go for a job and you don't get the job, you've got the experience for just attending the interview. Like I believe you will get it, but even if you don't, that's a big call. That's a lot of experience, and I really want to appreciate you for even just wanting or willing, to take this route. It's not a joke. If it was, all of us would want to be on the ballot. So
Yeah.
congratulations in advance, and we really, really, really wish you all the best. And please, when you get there, we will have a lot of, questions, calls, interactions. We will want to obviously be bringing you here to Daper TV, because this platform gave you that vote. You know what I mean? So who knows, man? Maybe you will drag the minister to this platform, and then we will get to interview the minister and
Oh, don't
let
worry.
him.
Just tell me who you want to come on, and I'll tell them. Look, listen, you've got to come on this show. Just give me a
Oh my
list.
God! I love where we are going to. See, when we started this platform, we had a dream. I will let Adam say what dream we had.
No, no, no. We're rounding down. There's no need to start going down. I have a dream route. But for real though, like honestly, it gives me so much joy. Like I had to play devil's advocate and ask some questions because there will always be naysayers, right? Who would be like, but this, but that. Every time you answer, they'll come up with a new question. So for me, like your answers, honestly, I already was a believer, right? I wasn't on the fence, but if I was on the fence, it will swing me to your side of the camp. And like yes, like we were saying, it gives me so much joy to see one of us doing something. Like it so much joy, honestly. So any way we can, we want to be there for our own. Like Nigerians, we love ourselves. Forget that the country sometimes it has its own negative cloud, but anytime we see another Nigerian winning, it's our win. So we're there for you, and we're super
Absolutely.
proud, super proud.
Thank you, and I just want to, because most of my campaign team include a variety of African nations. So everybody is just behind, because again we fit into the same box, so everyone's just putting their hand in and doing their best. Thank you very much. This was really, really good.
Yeah.
And thank you, Buchi. It's lovely to meet you in person. Now I remember you. I was struggling. I was like, that face looks familiar. Now I know.
Thank you for everything. I'm very happy that you're doing what you're doing. I'm also happy that it's a conservative party. I mean, obviously, conservative parties don't always re-echo the thoughts of everything Christian, but I believe that it is the closest to the so like you said, there is no one party that's going to embody everything you want, but you just need to find which one will work for you. So yeah, I wish you success, and I hope that we speak in the future. Yeah.
Thank you, and it's lovely to meet you all.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
and the guys online as well. Thank you for being such a
Some
wonderful
people even
audience.
had questions in the comment section. They didn't get to ask their
I know.
questions.
There is a question here before we go, please. So, the brain nurse asked a question and he said, "What is the difference between transparency and truth, diplomacy and lies in politics?"
Who wants
So,
to, you want me to take
no,
it, or Buchi, do
I will
you
let
want to
the
take
minister take it, ma. Please go ahead.
it? I would try as much as possible. Again, nobody's the aperture of knowledge. So I try as much as possible to explain it the way I understand it. Transparency and truth, you could, there's not much of a difference, right? If transparency, you have to be open about everything that you're doing. That is true transparency, right? And then you have to be forthcoming in providing. So if you've messed up, you say, look, I've messed up, right? So transparency and truth kind of work in parallel with each other. You probably can't have one without the other. And if you add diplomacy into that and lies, again, I believe that there is a place for diplomacy, right? I'll give an example. When you're negotiating between Korea and North Korea and America, right? When there's a negotiation, you don't want North Korea to deploy that bomb because you know the consequence is going to be significant. So you would be diplomatic in the way that you speak to them about the things that they need to do. Some of them may not all be true, but you know that in the interest of the public, the consequence would be grave. So it's about the greater good. Sometimes, for the greater good, you have to be diplomatic, but it may not necessarily be truth. That is the way I understand it. For the greater good, you must be diplomatic, but it may not necessarily all be true. But transparency and truth kind of run in parallel. You probably can't have one without the other. But when you throw into diplomacy, then you're having all of that. We're trying to navigate a difficult situation here. And if we don't, then the consequences will be catastrophic. So we call it bending the truth. We can bend the truth a little bit for the greater good, essentially. It's a moral conundrum, but yeah.
I swear, now you and Donald Trump supposed to do that debate.
Donald Trump. It's interesting, but that's why I say engage with your leaders. Engage with your representatives. Know what they, and I like what you said. Personality also goes a long way because the personality of the person would tell you how they would do the job. You know, if they're always cantankerous, angry, then you know that they're going to bring that personality into the job, even if they are an effective operator. And that's why sometimes, they say you don't fit into the team. Not because you're not great at what you do, but because your personality just doesn't match. So it's also an important element too as well. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I've been
You
talking at
can't
you.
see it, but I'm giving you a standing ovation.
Like 100%. Like, I mean, me and Adam have been having so much back and forth conversation, especially because, I mean, we are part, like, I'm in management, and sometimes you see a very good candidate does very well, but someone will say he doesn't fit in the team. And you keep wondering, like, smart stand-up, but it doesn't just fit in the team. And I kind of see why. But seriously, man, I really, really want to appreciate you for coming, and I really want to appreciate you being honest. And you have been using stand up. I like to say that you are a stand up as well. You are a stand up woman, and you have done justice to this question. And we wish you all the best. And also, I want to appreciate my friend and my brother Solomon for finding the time, to join us all the way, from London. He should be doing something now because it's still very early in the day, like maybe 2 or 1 p.m. but you find the time to join us, even when the invite was very, very, very
Lord.
impromptu. But you still have
Mm.
to find it. And we appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. And obviously, to my friend Adam as well, co-hosting, and we've been doing this week in, week out. You know, if we don't do this in the next week that is coming, maybe because we are on maternity leave. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So to our wonderful viewers that have been commenting, you know, dropping questions, we love you guys. And if you are new here, please follow the page. One day we'll probably bring the Minister of Australia to come back again. But it's just gonna be same time, different guests, but same venue for next week.